Okay. So let all of them join the class, then we will discuss all these things. So,
Good evening, Professor.
good evening. So, how are you? Fine.
Yes.
What about Kiko? She is still
Sick.
ill. Or
She's sick.
she is sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no problem. Then, how are you, Sayuri?
Thank you, Bante. Good evening.
Good evening. So, I have sent the email and 2 attachments are there also. So, I think all of you have syllabus of our courses also. If you go through the syllabus, everyone has the syllabus or not?
Yes, we have.
We have.
Yes,
Then it is all right. So if you go through the syllabus, then you will see that in the syllabus we are having BCEFE 102, page number 2, BCFE 102. There is a origins of Buddhism and fundamentals of culture. So if you go through the syllabus, then you will find that it is written systematic knowledge on the early period of Buddhist civilization is expected with a special emphasis on the topics given below. So first is the Buddhist critique of its religio-philosophical environment. Second is a special characteristics of the life of the Buddha. Third is the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. The Buddhist theory pertaining to the nature of sentient being, the true nature of empirical existence according to Buddhism, Buddhist analysis of perception, mind and matter, the Buddhist teachings on critical outlook, universal love, adaptability, democratic nature, and then lastly, we are having 4 social, political, economic thoughts in Buddhism. So, in the last class, in the last 2-3 classes, we had discussed about the Buddhist religious critique or of its religio-philosophical environment. We had also discussed that what was the religious condition at the time of the Buddha or at the time of the 6th century BC. We have also discussed what was the philosophical background of origins of the Buddhism in our last 2-3 classes. So today I have sent you some of the reading materials related with our this first, that is the Buddhist critique of its religio-philosophical environment. So here in the last 2-3 class we had discussed about our the religious as well as the philosophical condition at the time of 6th century BC or at the time of Buddha. Before the Buddha, we had discussed about the Vedic period, later Vedic period, and at the time of the 6th century BC, that is the Buddha, we had discussed about the all the 6 contemporary teachers, Purana Kassapa, Makhli Gosal, Pakud Kachayana, Sanjay Belatiput, Niganthanath Put. So we had discussed all these teachers who were teaching at the time of the Buddha or before the Buddha, you can say. They were a tradition of the teachers which was prevalent before the 6th century BC. So today, I think we have also discussed in our last classes, Rahul Kapse and his colleague have joined recently, just 2-3 class before. So we had also discussed about the life of the Buddha, that is the special characteristics of the life of Buddha. We have discussed from the birth to enlightenment of the Buddha as a Siddhartha Gautama, and after Siddhartha Gautama, when he got the enlightenment, till the Mahaparidibban. We have discussed already in the beginning of our last semester. So we had also discussed fundamental teachings of the Buddha. Buddhist theory pertaining to the nature of sentient being, the true nature of that is the Tilakkana we had discussed in our last class, that all things are subject to impermanence, all things are subject to suffering, and all dhammas are subject to soulless, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. We had discussed in our last semester period. Then we had also discussed Buddhist analysis of perception, that is how the things are or objects are being cognized by our senses. So we had discussed in our last semester also. Then we had discussed about the mind and matter, how a man is the composition of mind and matter, and how this personality of a man is being known as a panchaskandha, that he is known as a composition of the panchaskandhas, panchakhandhas, five aggregates, namely Rupa Khanda, Vedana Khanda, Sanya Khanda, Sankhar Khanda, and Beyond Khanda. So we had discussed all these things about the, you can say, mind and matter, that is the Chitta Chetsika Rupa. A man is, how a man is a composition of the Chitta Chetsika and Rupa. So we have also discussed after that Buddhist teachings on the critical outlook, as well as we have discussed the four Brahm Viharas, namely Karuna, sorry, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. So universal love here it is in the name of Metta. So adaptability we had discussed, and the democratic nature at the time of the Buddha. Then we had also discussed in our last semester that social, political, and economic thoughts in Buddhism. So in the last class, we have also discussed the social, what was the society at the time of the Buddha, what was the polity at the time of the 6th century BC or at the time of the Buddha, based upon the Pali text as well as in other Sanskrit text also we had discussed. And then we had also discussed about the economic thoughts in Buddhism, that what was the economy and what are the duties of a king. And we had discussed that how there are the 10 Raj Dharma, there are the 10 royal duties of a king, and we had discussed in based upon the Pali text. And almost we had finished our syllabus in our last class, last semester. But if you think that all these can be repeated again, then we can start again the things in a, you can say, as a revision of all the topics which have been given. The syllabus is very short, but if you think, then we can start again the things. And even Rahul Kapse has joined the class later on. He has not gone through all these things. So, for the sake of the revision, we can continue all these things. So, today, what I have given the reading material, this is related with the topic 1, that is the origins of the Buddhism and the spread of Buddhism. So before we start on this topic, let us discuss that what is called as Buddhism. In our last class, in the last semester, in the very beginning, we had discussed that what is Buddhism. Buddhism is not a religion or philosophy, but it is a system of thought and practice, that is pariyatti and patipatti. So, as a pariyatti, it signifies the teachings of the Buddha, and as a patipatti, that is the practice, it discusses about the meditational practices, that how the teachings of the Buddha can be applied in our day-to-day life, how the teachings of the Buddha can be practiced through the meditation or through the vipassana or through mindfulness and other practices, how the teachings can be developed through the our, you can say, bhavana or development or the practice. So this is the, you can say, Pariyatti and Patipatti. So Buddhism is nothing but it is a system of thought and practice which takes a being from the state of suffering to the state of eternal bliss. Here, a state of suffering is known as dukkha, and a state of eternal bliss signifies the state of nibbana. Buddha also says that I preach only two things, that there is a suffering and there is a cessation of suffering. Dveme bhikkhave desemi dukkham cha dukh nirodham cha. That Buddha says that there are only two things which I teach to all the human beings, that there is the suffering and there is the cessation of suffering. If you go through the Four Noble Truth, that is the Dukkham Arya Satcham, that is the there is a suffering. Dukh Samuday Arya Satcham, that there is a cause of suffering. Dukh, Dukh Nirodham Arya Satcham, that there is a cessation of the suffering. And Dukh Nirodha Gamani Patipadarya Satcham, that there is a path which leads towards the cessation of the suffering. And these four noble truth, Chattari Arya Satchani, can be summarized in two. That is the Dukkha and Dukh Nirodha. That is that there is a suffering and there is a cessation of suffering. So Buddha says that I preach only two things, that there is a cessation and there is a suffering and there is a cessation of suffering. We'll discuss the Four Noble Truths later on when we'll revise all these things in a very detailed manner. But today, what we are going to discuss that origins of Buddhism, how the Buddhism was originated. And if you go through the Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta, after having got enlightenment at a Bodhi tree, at Bodh Gaya, Buddha reaches to Sarnath, Rishi Patan Mrigdav, that is the deer park of Sarnath. And then he preached a sermon which is known as Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta. So that Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta was preached to fivefold monks. I am not going to make a history of the fivefold monks, but what was the essence of the teachings of the Buddha lying down in the Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta, I will discuss today in a very brief manner. And Buddha preaches to the five-fold monks, and it is said in the text also, in Mahabhagga, if you go through the Mahabhagga, then you will find Dhammacakkapavattana Katha, that is the discourses related with the turning of the first wheel of law. And there he preached, Dveme bhikkhave na pavjitena sabhitabba. Oh, monks, there are two extremes which cannot be followed by a person who has renounced the household life and taken a life of recluse. So this is the, you can say, Dveme anta pabjitena na savitabba. Now there is a question that what are these two extremes? Dve anta. What are these two extremes? It is said that kamesu kamsu kullikan yogo hino gammo pathijanuko anaryo anat sahito अथ किल मथानुयोगो अनर्यो अनत्थो अनत् सहितो उभो अंता मझिमा पटिपदा तथा गति न अभिसंबुद्धा चक्षु करनी यान करनी उपसंवा निब्बानास्ति. Buddha says that there are two extremes, kamesu kam sukhullikan yogo, that association related with the sensual pleasure, the pleasure which is being experienced by our five senses, chakshu, srot, gran, jihva, kai, and man. There are six senses. So when there is a association with the sensual pleasure experienced by our five senses, this is called as Kam Sukhlika Yogo. And this is Anaryo Anata Sahito. This is very low, very, you can say, heen Gammo Anaryo Anata Sahito, and it does not take any profit. That is why it is called as Anata Sahito. The second extreme or ant is called as Atakilmathan Yogo, that association related with the self-mortifications. Here, Atakilmathan Yogo means association with pronouncing oneself with the suffering. You might have seen that there are so many sannyasis or recluses who are pronouncing their bodies, they are suffering with the pains, and they think that through this they can get a state of moksha or a state of eternal bliss, nirvana. So these are the two extremes. So Buddha says that these two extremes are very low, they do not make any profit, and that is why these two extremes cannot be followed by a person who has renounced household life and have taken a life of recluse or sannyas. Then the text says that ubho anta, that in between these two extremes, that is the kamesu kam sukhilekan yogo, that is the association with the sensual pleasure being experienced with our five senses, as well as association with the self mortifications. There is a middle ubho anta majima patipada, there is a middle path. Majima patipada, in Sanskrit it is called as madhyama pratipada, that is the best path, you can say. Ubho anta majima patipada tathagati na abhisambuddha chakshu karni yan karni upsamba nibbana sabati. And this middle path, which is taking a person from the state of suffering to the state of eternal bliss, and it gives wisdom to the eye, wisdom to the light to the wisdom, that is the pragya. So this madhyama patipada. Now there is a question that what is that middle path? What is called as majhima patipada or madhyama pratipada? Then Buddha says that Aimev Arya Thangiko Maggo. This is the eightfold path. Sethidam, Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappo, Samma Vacha, Samma Kamanto, Samma Vyamo, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. So these are the eight, you can say, fold path. This is called as a Majjhima Patipada. And in explaining the eightfold path, Buddha also explains the Four Noble Truth, that idam khopan bhikkhave dukkham arya satyam, idam khopan bhikkhave dukh samudaya arya satyam, dukh nirodham arya satyam, dukh nirodha gamuni patipadarya satyam. And Buddha says that there are four noble truths, that there is the suffering, there is a cause of suffering, there is a cessation of suffering, and there is a path which leads towards the cessation of the suffering. So these four things which have been elaborated by Buddha in the Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta. So here Buddhism is nothing, but it is a system of thought and practice, pariyatti and patipatti, which takes a being from the state of suffering to the state of eternal bliss. If you summarize the whole teachings of the Buddha, then there is a verse in the Dhammapada. If you go through the Dhammapada, it is said that sab papasa karanam kusalasa upasampada sachit paryodapannam etam buddhana sasanam. Don't do immoral things. Do moral things and purify your consciousness. This is called as teachings of the Buddha. So, sab papa sakaranam, don't do immoral actions. We'll discuss in a very brief manner what is immoral, what is moral actions, and what is how we can purify our consciousness also. So, in essence, the whole teachings of the Buddha, or in a very nutshell, we can say that Buddhism is nothing but it is a system of thought and practice which says that don't do immoral things, do moral things, purify your consciousness, and this is the essence of the teachings of the Buddha. If you summarize the whole teachings of the Buddha, we can also go through the Jata Sutta of Sanjukta Nikaya. In Sanjukta Nikaya, there is a question. Once upon a time, Buddha was dwelling at Savatthi in Pali of nearby Gorakhpur or Kushinagar. And in the midnight in a Bihar, and that Bihar was called as Anath Pindak Jetvanas Aram Bihar. So once upon a time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the monastery of the Anath Pindaka at Sravasti. And in the midnight, a son of a deity approached to the Buddha and he put a question that there is a tangle inside, there is a tangle outside. Oh Gautam, I ask you again and again, who can distangle this tangle? In Pali, it is said that Anto jata, bahi jata, jatai jatita paja, tam tam Gautam puchhami, ko imam vijete jatamti. That there is a tangle inside, there is a tangle outside. Oh Gautam, I ask you again and again, who can distangle this tangle? In answering to this question, Buddha says that Sile patithai narosa payo chittam payam cha bhavayam atapi nipko bhikkhu so imam vijite jatamti. A person establishing in the path of morality may develop his consciousness or the concentration and the right understanding, that is the panya, and an ardent sage with the, you can say, energy, he can distangle this tangle. So this is the answer of the Buddha, the question which was put by a son of the deity in the midnight at Sravasti when Buddha was training. So Buddha, the essence of the teachings of the Buddha is that there are three stages of the purification, how Buddha can say the uh, seal, samadhi, and panya. Seal is the morality, samadhi is the concentration, and panya is the right understanding or the wisdom. So, in essence, the verse sab papas akaranam. So, here sab papas akaranam signifies the sense of the morality that is called as seal. Here, seal is the name of curtailment of the physical and vocal misdeeds. There are 7 types of physical as well as vocal misdeeds. What are these things? If you go through the 10 types of precepts, you will find panatipata, adinnadana, kamesu, mikshachara. That killing a living being, that taking the things which are not given to you, and indulging in sexual misdeeds. These are the three which are being performed by our physical. That is why they are called as physical actions, kai kam, panatipata, adinnadana, kamesu mikhachara. And then there are 4 types of vocal: musavada, pisunavacha, farusavacha, samphalapa. These are the 4: telling a lie, ignoble speech, harsh speech, and the speech which are not dear. So these are the 4 kinds of speech, and altogether 3 kinds of kaikam and 4 kinds of vocal actions. They are called as akusala kamma, related with the physical as well as vocal. And curtailment of these 3 types of physical and 4 types of vocal actions, they are called as seal. Here, subpapas akaranam is the name of the curtailment of the 3 types of physical and 4 types of vocal actions. Okay. Now, kusalas upsampada, that do moral things. What are the do moral things? Just opposite of the 3 types of kaikam and 4 types of vocal actions, that is the vachikam. What panati pata bermani, adinna dana bermani, kamesu vikshachara bermani, referring from killing a living being, refraining from taking the things which are not given to you, and refraining from indulging in sexual misdeeds. These are the three types of kaik kusal kamma. What are the four types of vocal actions which are related with the moral kusala kamma, kusala vachi kamma, that is the musa vada bervani, pisuna vacha bervani, harusa vacha bervani, and samphalapa bervani. Refraining from telling a lie, refraining from telling harsh speech, refraining from the ignoble speech, refraining from the speech which are not dear to anyone. So, refraining from all these seven types of actions are called as a kusalasa upasampada, do moral things. Now the question arises, what is the sachit paryodpannam? That is the purify your consciousness. How you can purify your consciousness? That through the three stages what we have discussed, sile patithai narosapayo chittam payam cha bhavyam. A person establishing in the path of the morality, that is the seal. Seal is the curtailment of the three types of physical and four types of vocal actions. He may develop samadhi and the panya, that is the concentration, samadhi, and right understanding or wisdom he may develop, and through that he can purify his consciousness. That is why it is called as three steps, the path, Buddhist path, and the eightfold path. If you go through the eightfold path, you will also find that the first two, that is the Sammaditthi and Sammasankappa, they are signifying the Panya. And the last three, Samma Vyamo, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi, they are called as Samadhi. And the rest, the three in the middle, that is the Samma Vacha, Samma Kamanto, Samma Ajivo, they are signifying the seal. So altogether, seal, samadhi, and panya, they are also classified in the three ways or three-stepped path in the eightfold path. That is the ahimev arya thangiko maggo. So the whole sabpapasakaranam kusalas upasampada sachit paryodpannam etam buddhana sasanam. This is the order of the teachings of the Buddha. So the whole teachings of the Buddha have been classified in the three-stepped path, that namely seal, samadhi, and panya, morality, concentration, and the right understanding or the wisdom. So this is the Buddhism. Buddhism is nothing but it is the name of the practice as well as the name of the theory. Theory means paryatti. Paryatti means teachings of the Buddha. Patipatti means that is the practice. It is the name of the samadhi. Through samadhi, we can purify our consciousness and get a state of eternal bliss through the path of the panya. So this is the three-stepped path. So in essence, we can say that Buddhism is nothing but it is a system of thought and practice which takes a bring from the state of suffering to the state of eternal bliss. So this is Buddhism. Now we can start that how the teachings of the Buddha were originated at the time of the Buddha. We have also discussed in a very detailed manner in the last 2-3 classes that how the six contemporary teachers were responsible for the origins of the Buddhism at the time of Buddha. So in a very brief manner, we'll discuss about if you go through the study material, you will find that how the spread of Buddhism has been given in a very essence or in a very, you can say, guide notes. I have given the notes. If you go through that how at Isipatana, if you go through, if you have reading material, you can go through that how at Sarnath, Varanasi, the Blessed One Buddha has priested his fivefold monks, Panchavagya Bhikkhu, the Dhammacakkapavattana, and there Buddha says that, O monks, that I preach for the sake of, and he also says that Charata Bhikkhave Charikam Bahujan Hitay, Bahujan Sikhai, Lokanukampai, Athai, Dev Manusanamti, that, O monks, wander from one place to another place for the sake of the many people, many for the sake of the gods and the human beings also. So this is the, you can say, same thing which is available in our Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta. So if you go through the Dhammacakkapavattana Sutta, you will find that how the teachings of the Buddha are available from the very first sermon of the Buddha. And Buddha also says that not two of you go in one direction, because Buddha was in impression that if two persons are going to one place or one village, then the rest of the other persons of other villages may not get the teachings of the Buddha. That is why Buddha asked his followers that you go to all the, you can say, only one person can go to one place and other person can go to in another directions. It means to another village. So Buddha says that for the sake of many people, he has discussed all these things. So in that way, the spread of Buddhism, and we know that after the first sermon of the Buddha, how Yas approaches to the Buddha with his 54 friends, and this fivefold monks, along with the Buddha, became the 61 members, and the Sangha was, you can say, originated. Here, the origin of the Buddhism, that after the first sermon of the Buddha, the Sangha was established with the members of the 61 persons along with the Buddha. There were 65 Yasa and his 54 friends, along with the fivefold monks and Buddha himself. So all together there were 61, and through this, the, you can say, the Sangha was originated, and thus began the mission of the Buddha, that how the teachings of the Buddha may be developed in all the directions. So, so this is the thing which happened, we discuss, and then from one place to one another place, from village to village, city to city, nagar to nagar, gram, nagar, janpad, he preached his teachings to for the sake of many people and for the sake of gods and human beings also. So the mission which was established by the Buddha, and it was a found expression in the voluminous literature of the hundreds of the languages. We are also having the teachings of the Buddha in the Pali language as well as in Sanskrit language, Tibetan language, Chinese language, Japanese language, and the in vast collections of the, you can say, even in Tibetan there is a collections of the teachings of the Buddha available in Kanjur and Tanjur, and even in Chinese collections, Bunjio collections of the teachings of the Buddha. So we are having even in Nepal also, there are the teachings of Buddha which have been preserved. So there are so many versions which have been preserved, the teachings of the Buddha. So no single teacher who stood before a man as a man without claiming divine assistance. So inspiration of the or guidance. And Buddha also says that my teachings of the Buddha are only guidelines. And Buddha asked his followers as well as his folkmen that you have to exert yourself for getting a state of eternal bliss, or from the state of suffering to the state of eternal bliss. Otherwise, that is why Buddha in the Dhammapada, it is said that tummehi kicham atapam akha taro tathagata, that I have given you the guidelines, but you have to exert yourself for removing the state of suffering and getting a state of eternal bliss. So without that, you cannot get a state of eternal bliss. So you have to exert yourself. And Buddha says that my teachings are only guidelines. They will serve you as a, you can say, the teacher, not after my Mahaparinibbana also, Parinibbana. These teachings will be the guidelines, but you have to practice, you have to exert yourself, and then you can get the things what you aspire for, getting a state of eternal bliss. So let us finish here. In the next class, we'll discuss about the what are the factors which are responsible for success of the Buddha Sangha mission in the spreading of the teachings of the Buddha. So we'll discuss, because there are so many points in this. So related with this today's lecture, if you have any question, then we can interact with each of you. And if you have any doubt, we can discuss some of the questions. If you have, we have still 10 15 minutes, then we can discuss the things. And in the next class, we will discuss the remaining portions of that lecture reading material what I have given to you. So any question if you have, Sayuri, any question?
I have no question. Thank you, Professor.
Okay. Then Hiroko, is it clear to you?
Yes, thank you very much.
Mayuru?
I'd like to go through again.
Okay. Because the things we have already discussed in the beginning also. If you remember in my introductory class, we had discussed. But for the sake of revision, I am again repeating all these things. So in the next class, we will discuss the factor of what are the factors which helped in the mission of spreading the teachings of the Buddha. So Rahul, if you have any question, you can ask.
I don't have any question, but I want to ask. This is not very related to the subject, but Dhammacakkapavattana. Dhammacakka. Chakka means, what does it mean? Chakka means we can wheel. Then what wheel denote here?
No, see, there is a very good question, and there is a very, you can say, inquisitive, that what chakka means here in the Dhammacakka. So there are so many meanings of the Dhamma and Chakka. Dhammacakka is made up of two words, Dhamma and Chakka. Here Dhamma, there are so many meanings in the text of teachings of the Buddha available in Pali Tipitaka. When we say that Buddho Dhammam Deseti, Buddha teaches the Dhamma. Here Dhamma is in the sense of teachings of the Buddha. When we say Manopuvangma Dhamma Manusettha Manomaya, here Manopuvangma Dhamma, Dhamma is here in the sense of moral and immoral actions. When we say Nahi Berene Berani Samantita Kudachanam, or Verene Samanti is Dhammo Sanantano. Here Sanantano Dhammo, that Dhamma is in the sense of law or rule. or when a rule is made up. So here it is in the sense of rule. When we say sabbe sankhara nicca ti jadai panyai passati ath nibandite dukkhe samaggo visuddhiya. Sabbe sankhara dukkhati jada panyai passati ath nibandite dukkhe samaggo visuddhiya. Sabbe dhamma anattati. Here dhamma is in the sense of composite and non-composite things. Sankhata and asankhata. That is the Sanskrit and asanskrit. Sanskrit dhammas are those dhammas which are dependent on some cause and conditions, hetu and pachaya. Asankhat dhamma or asanskrit dhamma or uncomposite dhammas are dhammas which are not dependent on cause and conditions. But here dhamma is dharadhito rammo. Here there are two words, dhar plus ram pratyay or suffix. When ram pratyay or suffix is added to the root verb dhar, then there is the aphorism of the dhamma. Here dhamma is in the sense of that which takes a being in the direction of the visuddhi or the purification. That is called as dhamma. Every dhamma or religion has only one objective, that how all the people may be devoid of the suffering and get a state of eternal bliss or the moksha. So here dhamma is in the sense of getting a state of eternal bliss. That dhamma is that which holds dhar. Dhar means that which holds dhareti dhammam. Dhamm is that which holds a person in the direction of visuddhi, that is the nirvana. Now, here Chak, there is a Dhamma. What Buddha got enlightenment at Bodhi tree, at Bodh Gaya. This is called as a, you can say, Patisambhuspada. There are 12 links in the law of dependent origination. If you go through the law of dependent origination, it is said that there is no self-independent entity. Everything comes into existence dependent on some cause and condition. It is said in the Pali that imasmim sati idam hoti, imasmim asati idam na hoti, imas upada idam upajjati, imas nirodha idam nirujjati. That based upon this, there is the arising of this, and based upon this, there is no existence of this. So if there is no existence of cause and conditions, there will be no any arising of anything. So this is the Patisambhujpada, and there are 12 links. There are Patilomanlay and Anulomanlay. Through the Anulomanlay, there are 12 links. Abhijja pache, sankhara, sankhara pache, vijnana, vijnana pache, nam pache, fasu pache, salaytan pache, vedana pache, tanha pache, upadan pache, bhav pache, jati pache, jaramana. There are 12 links. I am not going to discuss all this now. When the time will come, we will discuss again all these things. And when Patilomane, with the method of the just Patilom refers that Avijja Nirodha Sankhara, Sankhara Nirodha Piyan, like that. When there is a cessation of suffering, Avijja, ignorance, there is the cessation of the Sankharas. So like that, this is called as 12 links. So here Chakra, the Adulomane and Patilomane signifies the 12 links of the law of dependent origination. Through the Anulomane, 12 links through the Patilomane. So this Dhamma Chakra signifies the enlightenment, what Buddha got at the Bodh Gaya, at the Bodhi tree. So Buddha says that I will turn the wheel of law. That here he says that what he has got the enlightenment at the Bodhi tree, he is going to share all these things with you. So if you go through the Mahavagga, first book of Vinay Pitaka, you will see that how the Patisamuspad Katha starts from Abhijja Pache, Sankhara, Sankhara Pache, Bhyan, Bhyan Pache, Nam Rup Pache, Salayatan. Like that, there is a starting. So from there, Mahavagga starts. And he says that what I have realized through the 12 links of our Anulomanae and 12 links of the Patilomanae, all together there are 12 links. So if you go through the Dhammachakra, whenever you go to the monastery or anything, you will find Dhammachakra and there are 12 links. And sometimes you will find 12 links. Even the Asoka, who made the, you can say, line capital, the pillars, and before that he also made the Dhammachakra. And there are 24 links, and these are signifying the law of dependent origination. These are the Avijja Pache Sankhara, that whole teachings of the Buddha, they are signifying the through the Dhammachakra. So Buddha says that I will turn the first will of law to fivefold monks, Panchavakya Bhikkhu at Sarnath. What he has already realized at the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. So this is the Dhammachakra. Turning Pavattan is, and there are so many definitions of the Dhammachakra also. So when in the next class we will discuss in a very detailed manner, we will discuss about these things. So Dhammachakra, even if you go through the line capital also, in Sanchi Stup and in Sarnath also, the king Asok made the pillar, and at the top of the pillar he gave the Dhammachakra with the 4 lines also. There are 4 lines also. If you go through these pillar, the line what we are having in the national flag of India, there is a Dhammachakra, and there are 24, you can say, spokes in between the whole circle of that. In there are 3 national flags in between that. So this is signifying the whole teachings of the Buddha. The whole, you can say, 12 links of the law of dependent originations through the Anulomanae and 12 links through the Patilomanae. This is the Dhammachakra. Any more question?
No, thank you.
Okay,
Sir,
so
I want to ask something. That akusal karma and kusal karma. That 3 types of kaik karma and 4 types of vachik karma. Then where is Surameraya
now these are the precepts.
precepts? Yes.
These are precepts.
So,
They are called as Dasa Sikha. So for the layman, we are having the Panch Seal. Here there are 5 types of precepts which are given for, and for a bhikkhu or a monk, there are Dasa Sila. So a person has to go through a bhikkhu has to perform the 10 types of precepts. They are called as Dasa Sikha Pada. They are not actions, but they are the precepts. And for the layman, there are only Panchasila. That is, there are 5 precepts which a person has to protect. So here, Panati Pata Bermani, Adinna Dana Bermani, Kamesu Mikchachara Bermani, then Sura Meraya, Bikal Bhojan Bermani. So, like, and for Bhikkhu, there are Sura Meraya, Majapamada, Thana Bermani, then Bikal Bhojan Bermani, then Bisuk Dasana Bermani, then Jat Rup Rajat Patigahana Bermani. So there are other things which have been given for the monks and the bhikkhus also. So these are not related with the actions. Actions are altogether 10. Thus akusala and thus kusala, thus askusala. So here 3 types of kaik, 4 types of vachasik, and 3 types of manasik, also mental actions. They are called as abhijya, vyapad, michhaditti. These 3 are called as akusal manokam. And just opposite of that, there are 3 types of moral mental actions. They are called as anabhijya, abhyapad, and sammaditthi. They are called as moral mental actions. That is the manasik karma, kusala manasik karma. So these are the actions. We are having the 10 moral actions and 10 immoral actions.
Okay. That comes under the group kushal kamma and akushal kamma.
Kamma.
And precepts, 10 precepts are other than that.
Different, different.
They are different. That they are related to actions and they are related to precepts.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so in the next class, we will meet together on Wednesday. So,
Sir, you on phone, you was requested me for the time change.
if you all agree, then we can take classes 1 hour earlier than this one also. Because in India, we are having just 5:25, 5:30. So if you all are comfortable at Japanese time, 7 o'clock,
8 to 9.
8 to 9.
Yes.
So this time, say 4:30, 4:30,
Yes.
na? Okay,
Yes.
then no problem. If you all are agree, then I will take classes at 4:30. Okay.
What
Okay.
about all? Is it okay?
Wednesday.
They will.
Wednesday,
They will be
Wednesday.
same.
8 o'clock.
Wednesday?
Wednesday, next Wednesday, we'll meet together
Yes.
again
Yes.
at the same time what we have met today
Yes.
at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
8
Yes.
Is it
o'clock.
okay?
Okay.
Okay.
So kindly tell others also, like Kiko and others, they can also join on the next Wednesday at 8 o'clock Japanese time. I will join
Okay.
here at IST, Indian Standard Time, at 4:30.
4:30.
Okay, goodbye. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Professor.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night.